What's up, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Real quick before questions, I just wanted to remind everyone, or announce if you hadn't heard yet, that we are doing a charity stream for AMFAR today from 10 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching this on the day this video came out, it's probably happening right now. And, big exciting news. We're going to have Katie Sackhoff with us for the final 2 hours of the stream. So we'd love to have you come hang out, and we're going to do some goofy stuff with Katie while we play Battlefront 2, and obviously you can affect the stream in many ways, so come do that.
Matt Crater asks if we'll see young Luke in the Kenobi series, and if so, how much of him do we want to see?
I kind of think we will, but I hope that they treat it more like Star Wars Rebels, where he's just
Yeah, like far away, just like a gentle sighting, if you will.
Yeah, I like that. Just like, I don't know why I don't want Luke, in your face, just because I think that'll start to pull focus away from Obi-Wan, and I really want this to be about Obi-Wan, but obviously his story is very much intertwined with Luke at this point in time, so I'm almost I would be shocked if we didn't see him.
I would too, especially after the cast was announced, and we know we're gonna get Joel Edgerton as Uncle Owen. There's gotta be a little blonde kid there somewhere.
Right. I don't mean that he needs to be way off in the distance, but just I don't know. I kind of in my head see him as in the background of a scene. He's not the focus. We're yes, there's Luke. Of course he's playing with young Biggs, because if you're gonna do Luke, you have to do Biggs. So that's how I see it playing out. I just don't think he's going to be a huge part of this story. It'll just be a reminder of, yeah, Obi-Wan's watching over him, but he's got to go do this thing. He's got to go fight Vader, or whatever is happening in this series that pulls him off of Tatooine.
Yeah, and we know from A New Hope that he does know of Old Ben. He knows who he is. I feel like he's probably run into him, and he knows that his uncle Owen has met him and calls him a crazy old wizard.
Yeah, I kind of think it would be great if the first episode had something where Ben had to help Owen, but it puts Luke in danger or something. We get to see just that Owen going, this is why I don't want you around, you're endangering my son. So that still plays into it, but then I think that'll kind of, it could be like the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you're seeing the end of an adventure, and then we get thrust onto this new one. I could see that kind of happening, where it's Luke and Owen are heavily featured at the start, and then it takes a backseat to Obi-Wan facing Vader or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. Leftist Hominid wants to know if the Chiss could be the antagonists of Rogue Squadron, expanding their territory into the known galaxy.
Kind of an interesting thought, where we're going to be with the New Republic or whatever. Everything has been just thrown up into the air. And of course, this is if it takes place after episode 9, which I am leaning towards. But I don't really see the Chiss as an invading force. They are super against preemptive strikes. They mostly tend to be focused on their own territory and just keeping that safe. I don't really see them being oh yeah, time to go take all that area, all that lesser space.
Yeah, I don't know why they would want to all of a sudden just come into known space and be well, we want to take over this now.
Yeah, I don't really see it either. But it does seem like life is a lot easier. They call the known galaxy lesser space. They seem to look down on it, but I'm also life in the unknown region sounds rough, y'all. So, they call it the chaos. So maybe they could be we're tired of all this and we're moving in. Also, I do think that it's interesting that, we're probably going to see Thrawn in live action, which will start to introduce the Chiss to a larger set of Star Wars fans. So it's not the Chiss coming in would be a big, just wait, what's going on to everybody? I think people would be more ready for something like that.
Yeah, I just don't see the Chiss coming in. We might see live action Thrawn, maybe a couple other live action Chiss, but I think that's going to be it.
Yeah.
We're not going to see a bunch of the Chiss people.
I think I agree. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Thrawn and the Mandalorian and all that stuff, because that's like, what, 5 years-ish after Return of the Jedi. So, if Thrawn is still around 25 years after that, I do think he would be an awesome villain for Rogue Squadron. But I don't think they're going to do something where it's like, okay, he's been gone for the Galactic Civil War, and he comes back 5 years later, and then he's gone again for 25 years, and then he comes back. Like, that's just the new Palpatine. He just keeps getting pulled off into unknown space and making his way back.
Brick Something asks if Star Wars could ever get as weird with its storytelling as the MCU does. So what are we talking about here?
Like WandaVision.
Like WandaVision.
And I mean, in general, even their movies are, I would say, more diverse in a way. Like, they all still feel like Marvel movies, but, they get to do some different things.
I mean, Star Wars is already pretty weird.
Right. I think they're more talking like genre bending, where how far could you go? Could we ever do something like WandaVision?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I would say maybe, but yeah, something like WandaVision seems like too much. But we're talking about the MCU, which has been around for over 10 years, and obviously Star Wars has been around for over 40 years, but like the current era, like I would say it's less than 10 years old. It started in 2015. So I think that it would still have to kind of grow and evolve into that. But
yeah, I mean, the MCU has so much like pre-existing content to kind of pick and choose from, like House of M, if we're talking about WandaVision, and just all the alternate timelines going on in like the Marvel comic books that they have to cherry pick from. Star Wars, I don't see them cherry picking a bunch of stuff from like Legends, and then
even Legends, it was like all basically, it wasn't like they did a bunch of wild different genre stuff. We had a couple horror stories, but they still felt like Star Wars. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's just a different beast.
Yeah, like there's only so far I think you can like step away from what Star Wars is before you're like, does it feel like Star Wars still? Like the new Thrawn books, the Chaos Rising, for example, I remember reading that and I was like, in a good way, I was like, I kind of feel like I'm not reading Star Wars. This just feels like a sci-fi story, which I thought, great. It's like different. It was kind of stepping out of that fantasy stuff, but I was also like, how far can you take this?
Mm-hmm. I think like the further into the High Republic we get, we might see some not super far out stuff, but like just the way that they interpret the Force and the storytelling is a lot different, and we're seeing some more creative ways of interpreting Star Wars and the Force. Maybe as we expand into High Republic, and then maybe when we get into the Old Republic at some point, like that's going to be Star Wars' version of getting weird.
Yeah, I think that there's room for it to happen, but I think they need to take steps towards that. Instead, if they dropped something like WandaVision tomorrow, we'd be like, what? But if they spent 5 years kind of expanding what the idea of Star Wars is and being like, it's a big galaxy and there's room for a lot of different kinds of stories. If they did that for a little while more, and then I think people would be more receptive to it.
Brandon Velasquez wants to know if Star Wars has anything like First Contact Day for Star Trek.
I thought that was a fun question since First Contact Day was this past week. If you're not a Star Trek fan, and I don't even really remember the exact date, I think it's April 5th, but that's like the day where humans made first contact with an alien species. It was the Vulcans, because I have seen the movie First Contact. Good movie. But I don't really think Star Wars has anything like that where, we share a date, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, there's Life Day is canon now. We can joke about Life Day being a real thing, and May the 4th is the next closest thing that I can think of.
I was going to say May 4th is the closest thing. because that's a day where all Star Wars fans come together and we're like, hey, Star Wars is great, huh? And I assume Star Trek fans do the same thing on First Contact Day.
Robert Bush asks what Molly's dream cameo would be in a Star Wars movie.
So basically, like, my dream cameo is to have a line as a pilot and explode, which, by the shout out to @MattJAwad or Awad on Twitter, he took me one step closer to living out my dream and took that goofy April Fool's Day video and put it into A New Hope, and I loved it. So if you haven't seen it, I'll link to it. But yeah, what's your dream cameo?
It's hard for me to not say anyone who gets to hold Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian. So, like, that's probably a more realistic cameo for me than the one that I'm thinking of.
I love the idea of you being on Sorgan, like that farming planet, and all the kids run over and they're crowding
and
around
I just
Baby
mow
Yoda.
them down.
Yeah, and you're just like, move.
Yeah, that would absolutely happen. I just, like, maybe when we get to some Old Republic Star Wars stuff and maybe we see some, like, Jedi versus Sith wars, I just want to be, like, a cool-looking, badass Sith and get to do, like, one, like, really cool lightsaber twirl.
I'm a Sith and this is my lightsaber.
Yeah.
That's your line.
My lightsaber. Yeah, just, like, somewhere in the background, like, I was thinking of Maul when he's kind of just, like...
Just standing there being stoic, and he doesn't have very many lines, but then I'm not trained in any kind of combat, so maybe I would just look really cool and be in the background and get to do something really cool with a lightsaber that I could learn quickly. I love the idea of just you in the background fighting. And it's like every once in a while you'll see a compilation of, like, background actors who are bad at their jobs. Like, there's a...
I wouldn't be bad at my job.
Just hear me out. There's a clip of Casino Royale where, like, you're not supposed to make noise as background. So this guy is pretending to sweep, but he's not sweeping. So they just zoom in on him not hitting the ground with his broom. I just... something funny like that where you're in the background with your lightsaber.
Yeah.
That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars explained content like audio commentaries for the films, and we're doing Clone Wars. And this week's episode is Tipping Points, so that's all available right now if you're interested. Oh, Pippin!
On to YouTube questions. The Liamster asks, what happened to Cut LaQuaine after the Clone Wars, and will we ever see him again?
We don't know yet, but I think that he could very easily come back in the Bad Batch, if my assumptions and hopes about this series are true.
Because, yeah, he still has the chip, and, like, did it go off, and did he just up and leave his family?
Right. I don't think so. In my mind, he probably just, like, kind of jerked up and was like, were there any Jedi? Like, I just want to hurt a Jedi, but if there's...
He just wakes up one morning and he's like, oh, it's a good day to go kill some Jedi.
Yeah. But
goodbye, wife and family.
No, I don't think he leaves his family. I don't think he does. I think he has that thought and he just looks around the farm and he's like, nobody here. And he stays.
Yeah.
But then my hope for the Bad Batch, and we know that Rex is in it now, I hope that Rex goes around to all the various clones that he knows and is like, hey, we got these chips, you got to take that out. And he's successful with Wolf and Gregor. But I'd love to see him be like, oh yeah, there's that deserter, I should go check in on him.
Hopefully no one just forgot about him. JT wants to know what our favorite piece of unused concept art is.
The first thing that popped into my mind for some reason was from Solo, of the Wookiees, like with stormtrooper armor kind of slapped on them. I just like the idea of Wookiees fighting. But that's also like kind of a sad image that they're being forced to fight for the Empire. But that was just a striking image to me and the first one that jumped into my head.
Oh man, I'd have to go back through and look through all the art of books, but I do remember this one caused a lot of controversy when it came out, but in The Last Jedi there was concept art for like a Sith Force ghost.
For some reason I knew you were going to say that.
visiting Luke on Octo, and I know George Lucas has been like, Sith cannot become Force ghosts, but like, I don't know, something adjacent to a Force ghost that's a Sith. And it had this like red glowing light around it.
I mean, I think they could have worked around it because they have shown Sith basically clinging to life, whether they cling to their surroundings, buildings, or objects. And we know that Luke had like a Sith kyber crystal that he had found.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that had the spirit of a Sith stuck in it. Maybe he had a holocron. Like, I think there were ways to work with that if that were something they wanted to really explore.
Cypher Foxy asks if Thrawn will be working with the Empire and the Chiss when we see him again.
Kind of like what we were talking about earlier. I don't think so, at least not in like the Mandalorian stuff. Maybe he will come back 25 years after that and they'll all fight Rogue Squadron, but I doubt it. I think that one Chiss is enough for like the more casual audience. For people like my parents.
Yeah.
They're going to be confused enough when one blue person shows up.
I don't think he's going to be with the Empire at all.
You don't?
No.
Not with the Empire. Or do you mean not with the Chiss?
Thrawn?
Yeah.
I mean, if the Empire's gone at the time of the Mandalorian.
You don't think he's part of the Remnant?
No, I think he's doing his own thing.
Really? Okay, go on. Now you...
That's it?
Well, you just think he's... Well, what's his end game?
I don't know. I'm not a storyteller. But okay. He had his time with the Empire, and that didn't work out so well, so why would he go back?
I do have that same question, because the whole reason he joined the Empire was so that they were a big enough force that they could help the Chiss if they needed fighting. I think that maybe he still thinks that. He probably thinks the New Republic is too chaotic, so he wants to like rebuild the Empire. He thinks that's probably the faster thing, but...
Yeah, I mean, earlier I said we wouldn't see too many Chiss, but if he's doing his own thing, then that would involve a lot of Chiss. I honestly don't know.
I guess I see him as... I think they're going to basically do what they did with him in Heir to the Empire. That's my guess. So I assume he's leading these little Imperial remnants. He's going to try to unify them and take back the galaxy, but will be thwarted.
As per usual. Mac Welch wants to know if we could see Darth Het in the Kenobi series.
So that's a Legends character that survived Order 66. He was a Jedi, made his way to Tatooine and hid amongst the Tusken Raiders. At one point, came into conflict with Obi-Wan. No, I don't think that there's time to explore that. That just feels like a lot to bring in for... It depends on what the series is about. Like, if you're going to build up to a Darth Krayt series, maybe, but I don't think they're going to do that. And I think the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is going to have plenty to do without introducing like a lightsaber-wielding Tusken Raider. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, it does. I didn't even know who this was when I read the question. I had to get Alex to explain it to me. So my answer is probably not.
And that's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitch.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.